What do you say? What do you know? It's the Nuts and Bolts Sports NBA Finals Preview Show. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. You can follow me on social media on Facebook, Monty Perez, on Instagram, Monty Perez 2, and on Twitter, Monty JP231. That is Monty JP231. It is Taco Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. We are so happy that you joined us. Want to thank everyone for watching the full Monty Sports Show last week. We had 32 states watch across the country. We are trending number one, not all the time, but as you can see here, a few weeks ago we passed Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald has a very successful sports show, but when you type in sports show on YouTube for one day, we were number one. We're usually number three, number four. You know my motto: if you ain't first, you're last. So I want to thank everyone. We were number one. We were number one for one day. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week, and I can only do that with your help. So how can you help us? How can you make this show go 5 days a week? Well, the first thing you could do is give us a thumbs up on this YouTube show. Give us the thumbs up. And the second thing you can do is subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Tell one friend, tell one family member, tell a coworker, hey, subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. And of course, we always have our bingo drinking card. Anytime we say this, feel free to take a shot. Feel free to take a drink. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, happy hour somewhere. So we love doing that. We have the best guests all across the country, and this week is no exception. A little tradition here we're doing every Tuesday night with the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew. We're going to talk about everything you need to know about the NBA Finals, what's happening around the country with the NBA during this offseason. But first, we start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This portion of the good, the bad, and the ugly is brought to you by Beam Organics. Go to beamorganics.com. Go to beamorganics.com. They create the highest quality functioning supplements for better performance, better balance, better recovery, and sleep. Beam Organics is trusted by all our partners in the wellness community. Again, go to beamorganics.com and check it out. All right, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good. You know what? I love seeing this. Shohei Ohtani, okay, made history this week. He made history. He's having a season we have not seen ever in Major League Baseball, ever. The Los Angeles Star is finally healthy and is proving to be exactly what he has billed for. They called him the Japanese Babe Ruth. The Japanese Babe Ruth. I don't really like that comparison because this guy was in shape. The Babe was never in shape. But the body of work has certainly attracted attention. Not only had Ohtani been voted in as a starter at the designated hitter position, but he was also named to the All-Star game as a pitcher, becoming the first player ever to be on the All-Star on both sides of the ball. He's going to be pitching. He's going to be hitting. Now, he leads the Angels. He's batting .278 and has 31 home runs and 12 stolen bases. His ERA is 3.60, and in 60 innings, he has 83 strikeouts and only 35 walks. Again, we're seeing something we've never seen. A pitcher who is also a phenomenal hitter. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know if we're going to see this again, but I really believe that they always talk about Major League Baseball of the last decade losing the best athletes to basketball, to football. And now they're even saying they're losing some of these athletes to soccer. But why not have a pitcher who can also hit, who can also play the field? You see it, they do it in high school, they do it in college. Why, when they come to the major leagues, do you just stop them from being a baseball player? I understand you want to save the arm, blah, 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 but congratulations to him. Unfortunately, Major League Baseball does a terrible job in promoting their stars. So people who don't follow baseball and people outside of Anaheim don't know how great and how historic this pitcher and hitter of a season that he's having. So congratulations to him. That's the good. Now let's get to the bad. This really just breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart because Matiss Kouly, the 24-year-old Columbus Blue Jacket future starting goaltender, has died in an accident. Police initially believed that Kouly died after slipping in and hitting his head on concrete. That's what they thought. But then they later realized he was fleeing a hot tub because of firework malfunction, and it was later determined the cause of death was due to a fireworks blast. This is a guy who's 24 years old and was slated to be the next, starting goaltender for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And he's dead because of a fireworks accident. I mean, I say this all the time. People thought I was a Scrooge when I posted on Facebook on July 4th. I may be in the minority here, but I don't like fireworks. I don't like fireworks. And now people have died. I mean, just think of the concept. Can we evolve here? Explosives and alcohol. How does that not end in a bad way? I mean, this kid was 24 years old, and now he's dead from a fireworks accident. Remember a few years ago, JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, the defensive end for the Giants, then with Tampa Bay, he lost 2 fingers in a fireworks accident. I'm surprised we're not seeing more of this. So terrible, terrible, terrible tragedy that this young 24-year-old star is no longer with us, and our thoughts and prayers belong to his family, his friends, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. And now to the ugly. And I'm just going to say this is very ugly. And now to the ugly. This is very ugly. Okay. In comments still rippling through ESPN, the reporter Rachel Nichols, seen there on the right, who is white, said Maria Taylor, who is black, earned the job to host the 2020 NBA Finals coverage because ESPN was feeling pressure on diversity. ESPN was feeling pressure on diversity. Now, as the NBA playoffs started in May, the stars of the ESPN marquee basketball show NBA Countdown discovered where they would just boycott their show. Jalen Rose, Maria Taylor, they were objecting to the production edict from executives that was believed to be an issue benefit from us. Look, Rachel Nichols came out and basically said that the only reason Maria Taylor got her job was because ESPN wanted more blacks and minorities hosting shows. Let me just say this. I don't know anything about Maria Taylor, but what I do know is she works her ass off. I've seen her on college football game day on a Saturday and then hosting NBA show on a Sunday. She's constantly working. And what really annoys me is, Rachel Nichols here is basically saying that ESPN just wanted a black host. Forget about the fact that Maria Taylor started covering Division III and she's worked her way to the top. This is so, even if Rachel Nichols thought this, shut your mouth. Why are you talking about a fellow coworker, colleague? Because let's be honest, if there's friction at ESPN with one person, everyone else looks bad. Why, Rachel Nichols, why are you talking about your coworker? I'm not going to say Rachel Nichols is a racist. I know nothing about her. But this is absolutely tone deaf. Remember, Jemele Hill was working at ESPN. She came out against the former president, and a group of people said they were racist. And she's no longer with ESPN. Rachel, are you jealous? Because I got to be honest with you. I've seen you both do work, And I would much rather prefer Maria Taylor. Forget the fact that it has nothing to do with looks. Nothing to do with looks. I say this all the time to people. Guys can be so insensitive at times with female reporters. They're like, "Oh, how's she on TV? She's not that hot. She's not." Who cares? I don't care what someone looks like, as long as they get the job done. I'll be honest with you. For my taste, Maria Taylor is a lot more attractive than Rachel Nichols, but that has nothing to do with reporting. That has nothing to do with anything. Rachel Nichols here is tone deaf, basically saying that the only reason Maria Taylor got the job, who, if you watch Maria Taylor, she's always prepared. She outworks a lot of people. And I get it. Listen, even if you don't like Maria Taylor, you have to respect the fact that she's a grinder. So terrible job by Rachel Nichols, terrible job by ESPN, and that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you don't know, now you know. All right, let's do something we love to do. Let's troll the crowd. Hello, Joe. Joe's about to come on, double dipping here. Joe, not a man of a lot of words, basically just saying hello. You know, our good friend Rico Show Me the Money Graziano does that. Am I the Green Lantern? Again, why is it? Why do I get? Listen, forget about Maria Taylor. How about someone coming to my defense? Because everyone always makes fun of my shirts. And if you notice, my shirts always match the banner on the background. But this show's not about me. This show's about the wonderful and talented guests that we have on every week. Let's bring them on. The sports crew for Nuts and Bolts Sports. Joe, you said hello, so maybe we won't have you say hello. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good, man.
I'm good. We're good.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
All right. I'm going to start the show with this, and then I'm going to end with this. So for all you who missed the show early, I'm going to start with this. I'm going to end with this. Before we get into it, am I wrong? I'll start with you, Joe. Am I wrong thinking this? I can't live in a world where the softest player in the history of the NBA, Brooke Lopez, is going to win a ring, and Patrick Ewing doesn't have a ring. Joe, I mean, come on, Joe. Help me through this.
No, that's a great point. I actually didn't think about that. I agree with you, Monty. That is pretty bad.
All right. We'll get to all the topics that we need to discuss. We'll talk about Brooke Lopez, and the Milwaukee Bucks. But let's get right to it. Edwin, we're going to start with you. The Hawks reportedly signed Nate McMillan to a 5-year deal to make him the franchise coach. I love this deal. What is he going to bring to this team that he already hasn't had? Because they were in total disarray before he took over.
Well, now, you bring in a guy like Nate McMillan back into the side. I said this before, the Hawks went into free agency, or whether or not they will go in free agency. I think that Nate McMillan is the most important move for the Hawks this free agency. If they don't make any other move, he has to find a way to get this guy back, and they have accomplished that. So for me, I think that when you bring in a guy like Nate McMillan back into the side, and you have guys coming back into the lineup, Cam Reddish, next year it'll be Daniil Hunter. He has a lot of players to play with in that matter. And the Hawks will still be a relevant team. A problem in the East next year to go forward. I do expect them to find a way to still make a good run, for the Eastern Conference Finals once again, because they'll be getting so many players back into the side. And, depending on what they do in free agency, get a big man who can come in and give more offense if much needed. They might be the favorites in the East next year, depending on what they do in terms of, getting that front court size back offensively. So the Hawks, for me, they'll be looking good next year under Nate McMillan once again.
Dom, going along those lines, does this make them are the Hawks one and done? I look at this team and they remind me of the Golden State Warriors before they won a title. But do you think with Nate McMillan there, this is not just a flash in the pan? Joe's shaking his head again because I'm talking about the Hawks. But do you believe in this team now?
Yeah, I do. And like I said, it's mainly because of Nate McMillan. I think this was the best thing that they could have done, was getting him locked in, keeping him there. Like I said, I've said this multiple times. The Pacers will rue the day that they fired him for no reason at all. But Nate McMillan is a great head coach. You have a ton of tremendous young talent. You have a bona fide star in Trae Young, who, by the way, is going to Atlanta is already a nice spot. It's a destination spot for a lot of guys to want to come and live, right? Now you add the fact that, okay, now it'll be fun to actually play for the Hawks because Trae Young is there. I know I'm going to have a good time. I know he's going to get me involved and things like that. And like you said, we didn't even see them at full strength in this postseason, right? Like they were without DeAndre Hunter. Cam Reddish only played in like 2 games. They're only going to get better from here. They have some really tough decisions to make as far as what are they going to do, who are they going to pay. John Collins has his contract extension coming up. So a lot of stuff that you got to figure out there. But no, the Hawks are for real, and I think they're definitely going to be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the Eastern Conference for the next foreseeable future.
One of the things, Greg brings up a point right here, what bigs are out there that could score. I'm going to say this right now. The weakness of the Hawks was Danilo Gallinari and John Collins were their post-up players. So here's what I'm suggesting, and I'll let you guys answer it one at a time. Why not go after Jahlil Okafor, who's a back-to-the-basket player, who's a better passer than most people think, and he could score down the low post. He doesn't have to play 20 minutes. He's contributed in New Orleans. He was a very good rookie, and then ever since his rookie year, his numbers have gone down. But I think they should get a back to the low post player. What say you?
I disagree on the Jahlil Okafor perspective, just because the forefront of their defense was the versatility and synergy between Collins and Capella. And, of course, Jahlil Okafor cannot go out and switch in space or guard really anybody, So that makes it tough. But offensively, he makes sense because he gives them a paint presence that they don't have, as you already.
Tyrese, so are you? I still think it's a good move because in the second unit, you're going up against secondary players, so it's not exactly someone that Joe's doesn't agree with this at all, and we'll get to him next. But you just need someone to fill in for 15 minutes and score down low.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be quite honest, I believe Jahlil Okafor, he's not the best option, I feel, just because of the fact that he cannot stay healthy. And also, the past couple of years hasn't really had that much playing time. So not really performing to that, the standard that Atlanta will want him to perform to. You say back to basket big, he can get a bucket. That's the thing. But when it comes to defense, when it comes to being consistent, I don't think Jahlil Okafor is a better fit than Clint Capella, somebody that can rebound, somebody that actually could throw lobs to.
But wait, I'm not suggesting that Okafor comes in and takes Capella. I'm saying he's his backup. Yeah. Come in for 15 minutes.
I agree with that. But
still, I'm not. I'm sorry, that was my bad. I didn't mean to say, hey, come in and overtake Capella. My fault. No. This is strictly a backup. Joe, you're shaking your head as we welcome in Jeffrey. We'll get to him next. Joe, what does Atlanta need to do to improve? I can't do more than sell this team.
Not get Okafor. Does your Duke fandom have no end, Monty, at all?
He's a low post big.
Golly, brother. I even forgot that cat was in the league. So you said his name.
Joe, but he's only 25. He's only 25.
Understood. But that's not what the Atlanta Hawks need. I think they'll be fine, actually. I think a healthy Trae Young, I think the experience of making to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think you lock down John Collins and get him the contract extension you need. You still keep developing some of your rookies you had this year. I think the Hawks are fine, actually. And I think because of the run they had in the playoffs, free agents are going to want to come to play for them.
Okay, these are all fair points, but no one has answered my question on specifics. Yes, Atlanta's a fun city to live in. Yes, they're a young team on the rise. Jeffrey, who does Atlanta go out and get to improve this team? Is Jeffrey there? I think Jeffrey froze.
He's in the froze.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go one more time. Who does Atlanta go get to improve?
I think it needs to be either one of Josh Hart, who's an unrestricted free agent, or Norman Powell, he has a player option, but you're not sure what's going to happen in Portland. So if he happens to leave, he would be the most apt, response for them upgrading on their roster, rather than the wing more than on the front court.
You know what? Nice point here. Could Collins be a trade piece because Cam Reddish and Hunter kind of have the same skill set, And then maybe, you do get improved. Collins, the thing with Collins, he reminds me of a lot of RJ Barrett. He doesn't do anything great. He does a lot of things good. He's not a great shooter. He's a pretty good rebounder. He's not a great passer. He's not an elite defender. But he does do a lot of things very well. So you guys are basically saying, look, if they don't make a move, Atlanta is still a good team. I'm saying get another piece in there.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're all on the same page. All right.
I agree.
So, wow, this is a rare. Jeffrey, are you there? Can you nod? I think Jeffrey froze. Yeah, I think Jeffrey froze. Let's get him out and let's try to have him come back in. Okay. All right, my next question, guys. The Utah Jazz are trying to bring back Mike Conley, who's 33 years old. Conley made $34 million last year. Talk about overpaying a free agent. 2 years ago, 14 points, 4 assists. Last year, 16.6 assists. Joe, is this a situation where they know they're not going to attract any free agents, so they might as well stick to it? Or is this a good basketball move for Utah? Joe, you're on mute. Hold on. Go ahead, Joe. Oh. Nope. There you go.
I don't think it's a good basketball move at all. I just think they understand that no one's going to want to come to Utah in the offseason. What's the alternative at point guard? I mean, take a look at how many games Conley's missed over the last 2 or 3 seasons. He's definitely a serviceable point guard, but the money he's making, I mean, at the time when he signed that contract with Memphis, it was what the market dictated. It wasn't Mike Conley's fault. He was going to turn down all that money. But I think for Utah, you're just basically sticking with what you got. You know you're not going to get anything better.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But Tyrese, where do you go from here? Because let's face it, there's already talk. Dwayne Wade is now part of the decision-making process in Utah. He's starting to believe that with his name there, maybe he could track free agents. But how does Utah sell to their fan base? We're bringing back Mike Conley, who's grossly underachieved.
It's difficult to sell for a city like Utah considering its history, but what the Jazz need to do is go back to the drawing board. You made it to the second round, but you overachieved overall. You got the number 1 seed, so now you have to go back and see what the problem is. So I feel that if they land a decent free agent, which is very unlikely because nobody wants to play for Utah, I feel that they can make another push for the finals. Not the finals, or at least getting deep into the playoffs. That's their only worries right now. So I feel they have a good start, Donovan Mitchell. They have a decent low-post defender in Gobert, and they have a decent amount of pieces. It's just that they're missing that one key free agent that they need to get them to that next level. And I feel it's going to be hard for them to get that, considering, like I said before, with Utah, how fan base is and the things that they say on the outside. So it's going to be really difficult to kind of, get somebody in Utah, I feel. And Mike Conley is a decent option at point guard, but at the end of the day, he can't stay healthy. So if you can't stay healthy and you're getting paid this amount of money, then, where are we throwing our money to at the end of the day? So
yeah, Dom, how much
they have to
pull?
go back to the drawing board with this one.
How much pull does Dwayne Wade have in influencing Donovan Mitchell? And if Donovan Mitchell leaves, is this franchise done for the next 5 years?
As far as the pull Dwayne Wade has, he does have that pull, right? Like if Dwayne Wade, especially if you're a younger player who Donovan Mitchell, everyone compares him to Dwayne Wade and how they play the game. So if he's in Donovan Mitchell's ear, it definitely will hold weight. But that's only going to go so far. When Donovan Mitchell decides, if he decides that, you know what, kind of tired of it here, then yeah, the Jazz are going to go back to being the dregs of the league. And as far as Mike Conley goes, I do like Mike Conley. I actually like his fit in Utah just because I think he makes Donovan Mitchell's job easier because he takes so much of the facilitating responsibilities away and allows Donovan Mitchell to do what he is best at, which is attack.
That's fair, but I have to say, so did Ricky Rubio. He made his life easier.
Yeah, but
I like how Dom's
That's-
voice went up like 5.
Now, if the price is right, like obviously I don't want to be paying Mike Conley another $34.5 million this year.
Right.
But if I
That's
can bring
my
him back at a cheaper price, then yeah. I'd
Okay,
absolutely.
we're gonna move to the left here on the screen, and we're gonna get Jeffrey on in a minute. But Edwin, you were the one who loved the Jazz, right? You also love the Suns, and we're gonna bring on Jeffrey in a minute. But I got to look at this Jazz team, and it's the same thing every year, man. It's a good regular season and second round if they're lucky.
Yeah, it is the same team every year, but I do really credit the last 2 playoff appearances because of injuries, Bogdan and obviously Mike Conley. Now, in reference to Mike Conley coming back, I think it would be a good move, a good basketball move in my opinion to bring him back. Yes, he has injuries. Yes, he may not be, the most reliable player, but he has proven to be a little consistent over the past couple of seasons, in my opinion. I know what the doubters will say about him not being able to, overachieve, but he has been a good point guard. And for Utah Jazz, their plan this offseason has to be to re-sign Mike Conley and to also get a backup point guard who can come in and fulfill the role that he has if he does get injured. Look at the Clippers series and how bad of an ankle Donovan Mitchell had and how he had to continue to bring the ball up the court. And you saw that played a lot in him being fatigued, being injured a lot. So, bringing a point guard who can come in and be able to give quality minutes to the team, that could be a Jeff Teague, could be a Patty Mills, could be a Dennis Smith Jr. Any of these guys could come in and fill in the role for Mike Conley if he does get injured. But I would definitely go the role of bringing Mike Conley back for the Utah Jazz.
I think Quinn Snyder has done a good job, but Greg brings up a thing that they live and die by the 3. Again, another team that has no post-up players. Where do they go from here? How do you attract free agents? It's got to be Donovan Mitchell saying, hey, come play with me, right?
Yes, there's, as you mentioned before, the Dwayne Wade pool, of course, is going to play a role, but Donovan Mitchell even more than that because Dwayne Wade can't suit up at this point. So it's going to be Donovan Mitchell to say so, And just kind of to go back to the Mike Conley point, I think it's a good idea to bring him back for the same reason that Joe mentioned, that they have no pull being a small market team to get free agents. But also, let's not forget, Mike Conley was their most impactful player, plus or minus, for the regular season. They didn't have that in the playoffs, so that makes a big difference in the scoring offense.
And listen, I will say this, one of the most electric home crowds I've seen. The Utah Jazz fan, listen, there's nothing else to do in Utah, let's be honest. But if you want entertainment, those fans sell out. All right, let's try to bring on Jeffrey. Jeffrey, so glad you joined us. I see you loud and clear. I see you loud and clear. It doesn't even make any sense. Okay. Where do the Clippers go from here, Jeffrey? Because all the talk for the last 2 years was if they're healthy, they can't stay healthy. Paul George now has become the leader of that team. And for all the fans who are like, oh, Kawhi's sitting in the box because he's afraid of COVID, he was on the bench the last game. What do you do if you're the Clippers organization? Most people don't know this, but the Clippers and the Lakers spend the most money on their assistants. They spend the most money on their front office people. Steve Ballmer wants a winner. Are you breaking this team up?
I wouldn't break it up, but the Clippers, they strike me as like the Chicago Cubs or Florida Marlins of the NBA, which is, or the Marlins from when they first moved to the NBA. They got this big market. They've got they throw millions and millions at the team, and it just doesn't work. And if you guys saw, but Steve Ballmer, his celebration in last game was moving his hands in a very inappropriate manner with his teammates. Oh no! So we have an owner who's a meddler. He can't run Microsoft. He can't run the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard allegedly wants out. Goodness knows where he's going to go. They need another piece. It seems Kawhi isn't it. Paul George has really stepped up. He had a great full season, but they've never had success developing their own talent. Chris Paul came from New Orleans, so they need to find another piece. And the West is just so tough. They have a lot of work to do if they're going to make the next step because the West has just never had a down year.
Yeah, I thought Tyronn Lue, it was funny because there were certain games when they lost, and I was like, what the hell are you doing with this substitution pattern? Then all of a sudden he plays DeMarcus Cousins. And he starts producing. I think Pat Beverly's a joke. We'll get into that later. But I think the Clippers are going to stay pat. I really do. But Joe, here's the question: can I make the argument? Two arguments here. One, Paul George is better without Kawhi Leonard in the lineup, and here's why. He's a volume shooter. So if he goes 2 for 10 in the first half, he's going to get more shots in the second half without Kawhi Leonard on the bench. So you don't scrutinize him as much because you look at the end of the night, he's shooting 8 for 30, but he has 37 points and 10 rebounds going to the free throw line. And my second thing is Kawhi Leonard's a bailer. He bailed on San Antonio. He bailed on Toronto. Is Kawhi Leonard going to bail, Joe?
Well, the first point, I think Kawhi Leonard's a better player than Paul George. So if you're telling me I'm the Clippers and I got to make a choice, I'm sticking with Kawhi Leonard. I mean, look at his track record, the championships he's won, the clutch shots he's made in her situations. So I'm going to stick with Kawhi Leonard. As far as being a bailer, I don't know. I mean, because they're so tight about the injury, we don't know what it was. Was it a sprained knee? Was it a torn ACL? Obviously, it had to be severe for him to sit out as many games as he did in the playoffs, which for Kawhi is money time. He wanted to play in LA. This is home. All that time in Toronto, kept talking about how he wants to go home. Depending on how the experience has been the last 2 years, you got bounced in the bubble. You get hurt and gets bounced this year. I think he comes back. I think he still has a point to prove in Los Angeles.
Okay. If I'm Steve Ballmer, Tyrese, I'm keeping Paul George. I'm trading Kawhi Leonard. I think him and Jackson have tremendous chemistry. I think this team is better, not always relying on Kawhi Leonard. Am I crazy for thinking that? Tyrese, you're up.
Not crazy, but I still think Kawhi Leonard is a very key to this team. I mean, the team wouldn't have gotten to the without Kawhi Leonard, so I can't really count Kawhi out of the lineup. So even the way the first performed without Kawhi, I mean, I still, if they would have had Kawhi, I feel they would have had a better chance in the playoffs. I can't say that Paul George by himself clearly couldn't do it by himself. So at the end of the day, I feel that Kawhi Leonard is a more important piece of the lineup than Paul George. But I'm not discrediting Paul George for the performances that he did have. It's just that Kawhi Leonard is a champion, defensive player of the year. It's a lot that Kawhi has that I feel is much more valuable than what Paul George brings to the table.
Okay, and thank you for saying at the end of the day, that's on our bingo drinking card. So everyone take a shot before the NBA Finals. Talking with the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew live here on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to give us a thumbs up here on this show. All right, so you're the Clippers. You're the management. What are you doing next? Are you breaking up this team or you're saying, hell, we're coming back?
Nope. You've invested too much money, too much time, too much advertisement dollars around the city of Los Angeles in this rendition of the Clippers. You gotta run it back. But unfortunately, that decision is in the hands of Kawhi Leonard. And as you mentioned earlier, Monty, I don't personally think he's a bailer, but the track record has spoken for itself. So I think everything's contingent upon that, and then they have to play their hand based off of that.
All right, so Edwin, let's say this team stands pat, okay? We know that New Orleans is going to be better. We know that Dallas should be better. We know that Phoenix is not even in their prime yet. You look at the Western Conference, okay? This is a group that fundamentally, and here's what I don't understand about the Clippers. They're supposed to have lockdown defenders in Paul George. They're supposed to have lockdown defenders in Kawhi Leonard. You look at what Luka did. You look at what Donovan Mitchell did. You look at Chris Paul, who's not a scorer, who has 41 in Game 6. How is this team, Dom, an elite defending team?
Well, I mean, certain players in the league, you just kind of hope to slow down. Like Luka, Donovan, those guys are those type of players. Now, one, with the series, against the Suns, Kawhi Leonard wasn't there. So that plays a part into it. But I think they definitely have their defensive struggles at times. I just think that for them, it's a matter of consistently locking in. Because when they do, they have great defenders everywhere on the floor, right? So I think it is a matter of just doing it on a consistent basis and locking in. But this Clippers team, I like this Clippers team personally. I think that I would definitely run it back because when you look at this team, you have to think that this is like 2 years in a row where they haven't really had really anyone, but they kind of put this whole thing on the fly, and they haven't had a real regular season yet. Like year one, okay, COVID happens, we're in the bubble, strange, situation and setting for everybody. Year two, condensed season, coming off of an extremely short off season. Guys get injured. Like they just haven't had things roll or the ball bounce their way yet. And I think you have to run it back one more time, because with the way Paul George played during this postseason, looks like he kind of got the monkey off his back. And with a healthy Kawhi, I think that the Clippers would have beaten the Suns. So,
yeah, listen, you make all good points. I just want to say, I don't know what's going on in the chat room, but Nuts and Bolts Sports is typing from like 6 different accounts. I only thought we had like 4, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm in the Twilight Zone, but the Nuts and Bolts chats, YouTube, Twitter, it's amazing how many people are actually chatting right now for Nuts and Bolts Sports, so I love that. Okay.
Worldwide, man.
Worldwide. Like Prestige Worldwide. Okay, here we go. Edwin and then Jeffrey. Based on what you've seen with the Clippers, we'll start with you, Evan, then we'll go to Jeffrey. Are you buying or selling this team for the next 3 years?
I'm going to sell this team, seriously.
Good for you.
I'm going to
Good
sell
answer.
this team. If you cannot find a way to at least, you did your job right this year with, find a way to get to the conference finals. That voodoo, that curse has been lifted from the team, but this team wasn't meant for the conference finals. Let's be honest. It's meant for the finals, a finals appearance. And, the whole idea of the load management throughout the past 2 years, injuries, the idea that they can't find a way to play with cohesion, not being a good fourth quarter team. These are all problems that we never saw before because of how talented they are on the roster. But they have some serious problems which can prohibit them from not making the finals. So I'm definitely selling this team.
Jeffrey, you buying or selling?
100%. I'm with Edwin. I think we're on the same page in the past podcast. We picked the Clippers. We picked the Jazz to beat the Clippers. That didn't work out. So now we're on the same page again. I love you, Edwin, but you and I, great minds make mistakes sometimes. But yeah, I'm selling this team because what you see, as you said, what we see is what we got is just not good enough. Kawhi Leonard is just, he had that one great year where everything was perfect in Toronto. Since then, he just can't get his act together. Everything went right for the Clippers, and they still were easily defeated in the conference finals in the West. As did Monty, everyone else in the West, and the East too. They just keep getting better and better. The Clippers have plateaued. I think that they're probably going to cycle right back down.
Yeah, no, I would sell them too. All right, let's move. Something that most people don't agree with me on is, Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks star, came out this week and he said winning a gold medal for Slovenia would mean more than an NBA title. Let me just start with this. We saw Paul George had a horrific leg injury that ruined him for 2 years. Joe, we all love the Olympics, but if I'm an owner, I don't want my players, first of all, saying that winning a gold medal for your country is more important than an NBA title. And secondly, I don't want my players playing in the Olympics, Joe. I don't want an injury.
Love a country, man. In the case of Luka Doncic, I understand what you're saying. You got to understand the history of his country, not really known as a basketball hotbed until recently, like the last 4 or 5 years. So to bring the spotlight on this country by winning a gold medal, I can say that's more important to him than the NBA championship. Now, would I make that public knowledge? Probably not. Maybe that's something you want to stick to the locker room. And as far as keeping guys off the Olympic team, Monty, I definitely agree with you on that one. There's a lot of money invested. Like everyone was saying with the Clippers, you have a lot of money invested in these athletes. And it's great they want to represent the United States. But for every gold medal, there's a chance of having a horrific injury like a Paul George. And a lot of these franchises cannot afford that at all.
And you know what? It doesn't even have to be an horrific injury. It could be a tweaked hamstring that never really heals. It could be a sprained ankle. All right, so if you're the manager, if you're the owner of a team, are you allowing your players to go play the Olympics? Or are you saying like, hey, guys, no more?
I think in this scenario, context definitely matters. So, for example, after a season like, let's say, the bubble last year or even this season being, so hodgepodge the way it was put together and such a short turnaround to next season, I would say absolutely not for my players if I had to say so. But at the same time, if you have players that are from foreign countries, you have to also understand that one way that they even got to the league in the first place was probably through playing through, FIBA tournaments or the Olympics to make a name for themselves. So you can't
That's a good point. It's a very good point.
At the same time, when they're under contract, you do have a say so at the end of the day.
Okay, Dom, but my argument, it's not the same when the Dream Team was there. The Dream Team won every game by 50 points. Now it's guys who are on the same team who want to prove something. They're going into this like a Luka Doncic is going into this. He's out for blood. We saw what he does against the Clippers and elite teams. So it's not easy anymore. It's a grind to play in the Olympics. There's no easy games.
Well, America will always still have the overwhelming advantage. But I do agree with you from the standpoint of this. If I am an owner of a team, I personally do not want my stars going, right? Like I feel like, hey, I understand a gold medal is a really cool thing. I understand it's the Olympics. But I kind of have like invested $250 million into you guys. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe we don't. But
right.
On the flip side of that, you have a situation where, like in 2004, and America is just ridiculously embarrassed because how the hell did we end up with a bronze medal? So I get it. And as far as Luka with his comments, I think I agree with Joe. I have no problem with his comments. I don't like you saying it publicly if I'm Mark Cuban because, hey, man, like you play in the NBA, right?
Mark Cuban's about to give him $200 million for the next 5 years.
Exactly. I'm about to give you $200 million. Maybe, keep up appearances, right? But like I said, for Luka, I get it. I'm only going to have maybe 2 or 3 chances to win a gold medal for my country, which has never even qualified for the Olympics before in basketball. Whereas I'm probably going to have a chance to win an NBA championship for every year for the next 15 years. So I get it.
Okay. Let's move. We're going to go right here with Jeffrey, Edwin, and then Tyrese in that order. Just so you guys stay ready for the ball because I'm dishing it out as quickly as I can. So just, hands ready, get in shooting form. Jeffrey, in the East, who has the best opportunity for a team that didn't make the playoffs last year? The Bulls, the Raptors, the Cavs, Magic, or Pistons? And tell us why.
I would say 100% the Raptors because this is a team that won the NBA championship just 2 seasons ago, and they didn't miss the play by that much. Kyle Lowry got injured, and they really limped the finish. But keep in mind, they played the entire season in Tampa because of restrictive coronavirus measures in Canada. They played the entire season on the road. And remember, guys, you just have to finish in the top 10 to get in the play. So I think they can keep Kyle Lowry. They may make a few moves to retool the roster. They'll easily be in the top 8 in the East.
Yeah, but see, I don't think they're keeping Kyle Lowry. Edwin, who's the team that goes from last to the playoffs?
Definitely the Bulls. Listen, I do agree with Jeffrey's point here that the Toronto Raptors have a good shout. But as you just mentioned, Kyle Lowry is a crucial piece to that team, and he definitely will be leaving this offseason. The Bulls, to me, they have a young star in Zach LaVine, and in my opinion, he's the best young star among all those teams you just mentioned, and that more times than not will prove to be the best way for you to make the playoffs. So for me, the Bulls are probably like 1 or 2 pieces away from contending for a low-seeded team, a low-seeded spot in the East. But as long as you have Zach LaVine, who has proven to shoulder the offensive load for that team, they have a good shot to make it to the playoffs.
Edwin, there's a show that Dom's going to be hosting called No Huddle Necessary, where there's a winner every week. Right now, you said you'd sell the Clippers, and right now you're agreeing with the Bulls. So you've won this episode right now. I'm sorry. If this is No Huddle Necessary, I'm giving you the win. All right, Tyrese, close us out. Who is the team in the East that comes out and makes the playoffs?
Frozone.
Tyrese froze. Okay,
I
there
say
you go.
the best chance to make the playoffs, coming off the season that they did have.
Who was that? You froze.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
So I say Toronto has a decent chance of coming out of the East. Well, not coming out of the East, but making the playoffs, especially coming off this past year. I'm saying they get, like Jeffrey said, you get all of the people that I can see Toronto, making that push. They have Van Fleet, they have Siakam, they have Kyle Lowry. Hopefully they can keep Kyle Lowry. Hopefully some extra around that.
I think Kyle Lowry is going to be gone
to make that push.
Tyrese, okay, you just froze for a minute there, so we'll come back to you. All right, let's talk about the West now. Joe, we'll start with you. Pelicans, Kings, Timberwolves, Thunder, Rockets. Who makes the playoffs next year out of that squad?
I'm going to say Pelicans, but with the caveat, I'm going to say Pelicans, depending on if they get a decent, reliable head coach and just don't pick some random guy at the stands like they did with the Get a reliable coach. You got 21-year-old superstar. Brandon Ingram's still there. You figure out what you're going to do with Lonzo Ball. I think New Orleans is a place to be, to play with Zion. That's a playoff team.
Okay. Can we make the argument that New Orleans, although they have young players, maybe free agents don't want to go there?
Yeah. Again, similar situation to Utah, and I know as well as anyone with my guy CP3 having spent, the beginning of his career in New Orleans, no one wants to go there. Doesn't matter how good you are. Anthony Davis, same thing. He got out of there on the first thing smoking. My personal choice for
yes, he did.
My first choice for of that group of teams is the Timberwolves, actually.
Yes.
Because Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell have played 25 games together. And it's been 2 seasons since that crazy trade went down. On top of having Anthony Edwards, who was arguably the Rookie of the Year, and they have players like Malik Beasley and Ricky Rubio, who came in and they filled in more than viably this season. So if they can finally have everybody together for a sustainable amount of time, I see no reason why they can't be in the top 10 and at least make the play.
All right, Dom, who's your pick?
So let me ask a quick question. Are we including teams that were eliminated during the play-in games? Because obviously Golden State, the clear-cut answer.
No. Obviously, I think Golden State's going to be a top 4 team next year. And my thing is, I think Memphis. I think Memphis is going to be as good as they're going to be 7th or an 8th seed. So my question was just Pelicans, Kings, Wolves, Thunder, or Rockets. Listen, I like the Kings because I do think when Marvin Bagley Jr. is healthy, he's about 17-8. I had him on my fantasy football team, basketball team, so I know how he is. I think Buddy Hield, if he stays, can shoot. And DeAndre Fox is a legitimate scorer.
Right. So I do like the Kings, and you and I both have our Duke fandom. So you've mentioned 2 Duke players today, so I appreciate it. However, I do think the best shot is the Pelicans if they get the right head coach. But my dark horse, and they have a ton of young talent, but I do like this Thunder team. I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I like Kemba Walker coming there now. They have so many draft picks. It's literally, I feel like they have half of the draft picks for the next 3 years. This team, young talent, were in the playoffs last year. I think a lot of them had a lot of maturing under CP3 when he was there. And I think that still is carrying over. I think this Thunder team will definitely be in contention to, at the very least, they'll be in the play-in games next year.
You bring up a great point about the Thunder, but I'm going to say this. They lost James Harden. They lost Westbrook. They've lost Kevin Durant. They've lost Enes Kanter. They've lost Paul George. If you just kept those guys, you'd be the dynasty. Now, I know you can't, but what is about the Thunder that they attract players, and then as soon as they become a superstar, it's like the Pirates in baseball. They leave to go make some money. The Thunder can't keep anybody.
Yeah, it's rough. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I'm just saying they struggled for sure. That's a great point. They have to be an ESPN 30 for 30 on how they lost all those guys.
Victor Oladipo is another one. Chris Paul.
Is Oklahoma City the smallest market in the NBA? That's a legit question to ask.
That is a legit question.
I think they are.
They could be.
Yeah,
they could be.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, you had Durant, Westbrook, James Harden, Victor Oladipo. The list goes on and on. I'm sure I'm forgetting some players. All right. Last question, and before we get to the NBA Finals and the Bucks and Suns, big shout out to Jeffrey. When we first did the opening round, Jeffrey said that he thought Phoenix was going to go to the NBA Finals, and I think my first reaction was, "Are you on crack?" So I was wrong. Congratulations, Jeffrey. Great job.
That's how I prepare for my blogs. I do a quick line of book, and then I sit down, and it really helps me focus for my blog.
Joe doesn't like that thing. Okay, so my last question. Before we went on the air, there was talk all day about DeMar DeRozan going to the Lakers. We're going to go around the horn here, 30-second take each. I say it's a bad fit. He's not a three-point shooter. Yes, he's a professional. He'll get you 18, 5 and 5, but he is not a LeBron guy, Joe. Start with you.
I think DeMar DeRozan does what you thought Kyle Kuzma was going to do, personally. I think that's how he fits with the Lakers. I think you get rid of Kyle Kuzma, and like you said, you get a professional, somebody who's consistent, who has a track record. He doesn't want to be there and be the alpha. He just fit in. I mean, at this point, DeMar DeRozan's looking for a ring, obviously, to solidify what's already been a solid career. I think that's a good move for the Lakers, personally.
Okay, Dom, next. You think that's a good move? I don't like it because he doesn't shoot the three, Dom.
Yeah, he doesn't fit with what LeBron likes to do on the offense. It's just the truth. LeBron likes to control the ball, dribble, and he wants guys to sit in the corner and be ready for when this pass comes to shoot it. That's not going to be what DeMar DeRozan is going to do for you. And I feel bad for DeMar DeRozan because he kind of basically was sacrificed for that ring from the Raptors a couple years ago. So I just don't like the fit. I still like him. I truly appreciate the fact that he is like the only player in the league who's keeping the mid-range game alive. Yeah. But outside of that, he just doesn't fit in LA.
All right, Jeffrey, where does Dennis Schroeder end up? He wants $100 million. He's not getting that. Where's a good fit for him? If I'm the Lakers, I give him a 5-year, $60 million contract. He's 15, 5 and 5. He's not a number one. He's not a number two, but he's a decent number three, and he takes pressure off LeBron.
Yeah, Monty, that sounds reasonable to me. I think the biggest problem with the Lakers, they did brilliantly in the bubble because they had a niche, or what we call a blue ocean strategy. Everyone else is trying to shoot a gazillion threes a game. Look at the Jazz. The Jazz or the Rockets before them, 40, 50 threes a game. But when you have a cold stretch and the law of large numbers goes against you, you could be in big trouble. The Lakers decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to forget those threes. Well, not forget them. Obviously, they still need to take a share. But they're going to try to diversify the game, to pack it in with more two-point shots, mid-range floaters, which are lost art, pass it in the paint for LeBron, restricted arc for LeBron and 80 fadeaway twos. And work very well with Giannis. Forget about those threes, Giannis. Well, pushing him with the free throws. Push it all in. So Schroeder, he could be a very good number three guy, but they need, as we said before, they need Anthony Davis to be healthy and in game shape. They need LeBron to find that life because he seems to always come up with something new out of nowhere every time we think he's done. At some point, the end is going to be there for LeBron, but they might have 1 or 2 more years. They can, as they did in the bubble year, get the right complement of players behind their two superstars.
Okay, final question, then we're going to get to the NBA Finals. There is talk that the Brooklyn Nets are now shopping around Kyrie Irving. This is insane. You have 3 guys who can put up 30 points a night. They were hurt. You don't trade Kyrie Irving. Am I wrong here?
No, you are 1,000 billion million% correct. You don't trade, one of the main reasons that, the team that you have together is together. Especially after they got an incomplete grade for this past season because of the injuries and everything. And their 3 best players barely played together for a sustained amount of time. So, no, you don't do that trade at all.
Okay, if I was going to trade someone, Edwin, it would be James Harden over Kyrie. Do you agree or disagree?
Ooh, I disagree with that one. I think James Harden is a much more valuable player than Kyrie is. I think he's a much more better fit. He offers more to me with his game. And, compared to Kyrie, when it comes to off the court as well, too, that kind of scares me a little bit as well, too. I would trade Kyrie. I don't think he's the right guy, the right leader, in my opinion. All this, this aura around Kyrie, it's not positive for the team, in my opinion. So I would definitely let go of him.
Edwin, remember I said you won the show earlier? You just lost. Can I change? Dom, can you do that? Can you halfway through change your mind on the show? Because, no, first of all, James Harden has never won. Kyrie Irving hit the biggest shot in the history of the NBA Finals. Kyrie Irving has a ring. James Harden is a stat guy. Yes, he curtailed his game and he fit the role. But I got to be honest here. If I'm trading someone, Tyrese, back me up here.
Harden.
It's
Get
Harden, right?
out of there. Get Harden. The mistake was getting Harden and giving up so much for James Harden. That's why I feel Brooklyn kind of messed up at. I feel that when you have that 3-headed monster on the floor, it's good things are bound to happen when they're hot. But I feel that giving up depth for James Harden, the stat guy, I didn't think that was the right move to begin with. So if you are to trade anybody, get Harden out of there and get some pieces around Kyrie and KD. That's the most obvious thing to do right there for Brooklyn, in my opinion. I just feel like James Harden. I love James Harden. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel the fit with Brooklyn what Kyrie provides versus what Harden provides. I'd rather have Kyrie, in my opinion, considering the fact he has championship DNA. He's been in those situations where he's been that guy in those clutch moments. So I don't get Harden out of there, man.
Joe, you agree with that? Are you keeping this team together, or are you saying, you know what, we need more depth in case one of the big three gets hurt? Let's face it, KD was exhausted. You can't play him 48 games a night anymore in a 7-game series. One of the things that I'm worried about with the Phoenix series, and we'll get to in a minute, is how Milwaukee just wears you down. So, Joe, are you keeping this big three, or you close this segment out? Are you going for more depth?
I'm keeping them. And the reason why is because the big names, they were, like we've been talking about on all the shows, a compressed season, not really having an off season, all the injuries you had. I want to see what these guys can do when they're healthy. And the luxury that Brooklyn has is they're all big name players. So let's say that next season comes around, you're still seeing the same issues as far as injuries, as far as depth. Then you can still say, hey, we got Kyrie Irving. He's available. For all the reasons we just talked about, the championship DNA, the box office person that he is, whether he wants to be or not, you can still trade him and get value in return. So if I'm Brooklyn, I bring these guys back and see what we got in the beginning part of the season.
Fair enough. All right, we're talking with the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew. When we come back, we're going to break down the NBA Finals. Jeffrey's Phoenix Suns, who he picked to win it all early on, but now they're going against his Bucks, so he's kind of torn. You're watching the Full Monty Sports Show. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel and give us the thumbs up.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
All right, guys, we talked about continuity and load management with the Clippers. One of the things that is so impressive about Phoenix and the Milwaukee Bucks is that they were number 2 and number 4 with the same starters for every game. So there's continuity there. Both of these teams, I said it probably right around 2 or 3 months ago, once they acquired Milwaukee, Drew Holiday, I love that signing because I thought he added some toughness. Once they got PJ Tucker, I said, don't be shocked if Milwaukee wins the series. I had them getting to the finals, but I can't stand the coaching. Okay, and I can't stand Brook Lopez. We'll get into that. One of the things I love about being a college basketball coach is one of my strengths was always taking away the first option. So, Joe, we're going to go around the board as you see there on the screen, and we'll go give us about a minute for each time. What I would do, okay, Chris Paul is not the quickest guy going laterally. So what I would do is I would put PJ Tucker and Chris Middleton on him, okay, because you want size. You want to deny his vision because he's such a great passer. And I would put Chris Paul's not going to beat you. He did it that one time against the Clippers, but I'll take my chances Chris Paul shooting. What I would do is I put Drew Holiday, DiVincenzo on Booker. Let Booker get his points. Don't let anyone else get involved. Is that a good strategy, or am I insane?
Well, the Bucks have a big loss since DiVincenzo is not available still. With
right.
But I think that, yeah, I'd agree with that. I think you wear Chris Paul down. I think that you do cut down that lane of vision, sight of vision, having that taller, longer player on him. The score for the Phoenix Suns, the alpha when it comes to scoring, is going to be Devin Booker. So I think having somebody like a Drew Holiday and Devin Booker is a good idea because, Drew Holiday proved in that Brooklyn series and in all the playoffs and all season long that he's definitely capable and ready for the stage. I think it's a good strategy. As much as you and I don't agree on things, Monty, I agree with that.
Okay. I'm sorry. I said DiVincenzo. I meant Pat Connaughton. because he's bigger, he's longer. Dom, my
Mhm.
theory here is simple one. Listen, let Booker score 40. Aton's not going to get involved. Cameron Payne's not going to get involved. Make the other guys beat you.
I mean, yeah, that's. I think that's always kind of the mentality coming into it. You know, certain players you want to hope to slow down. Now, I will say this: I don't know if letting Devin Booker get 40 is a good idea, because letting Devin Booker get 40, I've seen it can very quickly turn to Devin Booker scoring 70. So I don't know if that's.
He only did that once. Let's not go crazy. But it did happen. So
Yeah,
you're right.
but no, but I do agree with that. You have to keep everyone else in check. I think keeping DeAndre Ayton, I think, is going to be so important in this series. And if you can keep him in check, because very quietly, DeAndre Ayton, like we're talking about all these other players, for someone who's in their first ever playoffs, DeAndre Ayton has been phenomenal. If you can keep him in check, then Milwaukee has something. They'll be cooking.
Okay, what's your strategy here to stop Phoenix? Are you taking away Chris Paul? You taking away Booker? What are you doing here?
So the strategy of letting the team beat you, I feel, will kind of backfire against Milwaukee, because that team can beat them if everybody is on point that game. We cannot undermine the fact that Chris Paul can play. He's one of the best playmakers ever. So I feel he's going to get everybody involved regardless of however they guard him. But in the way I would try to stop Phoenix is, you know, like you said, put somebody big on Chris Paul and put somebody physical with Devin Booker so he could force up tough shots. Devin Booker, he forces shots sometimes when somebody, you know, tries to push the agenda against him. They give him body. They'll try to force him to the paint, into the big, so he'll put up a really, you know, bad contested layup or something like that, or he'll put up a forced jump shot. But I say, you know, you put PJ. I say you put PJ on Devin Booker and you put Drew Holiday on Chris Paul. So I feel you kind of even the playing field. You have a fast defender in Drew Holiday, and you have somebody that can be physical with Devin Booker. And all you have to worry about is just DeAndre Ayton and the bench. You know, the bench for the Phoenix Suns have been very solid in this postseason. So I say if you focus on neutralizing Chris Paul, you know, forcing him to make bad passes, which Chris Paul rarely ever does. So this will be interesting. And you force Devin Booker into a tough situation, force him to take tough shots, then you probably have something going with this Phoenix team. But you can't let everybody else beat you, because the team will beat you. They will.
Yeah, my strategy is make Chris Paul just a passer, but also talk about DeAndre Ayton. He's got to score 15 and 10 for them to win, right?
Well, for one, let me go back to the other point real quick.
Yeah.
I think the best deployed defensive strategy from any coach that I've seen came from Greg Popovich in 2008, 2012, and then 2015 when he played against CP3. What he does is he makes him score. If you're making him score, that means you're taking away him getting everyone else involved. And that's what the Phoenix Suns are. They're a machine. They're not just one specific player or two. They're a machine.
Mm-hmm.
If you force Chris to score specifically, I feel like that betters your chances much more than making a pass, because now you got guys spraying from all over the floor, and then
getting hot.
They're indefensible. But to answer the second question, DeAndre Ayton is a tricky question because his impact doesn't come from scoring. His impact comes from his defense more than anything else, and then the gravity that he has on the floor is setting screens, offensive rebounds, extra effort and communication. You know, so it's hard to shut down a player whose impact goes far past counting stats and in the box score.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have no dog in this fight, so to speak. In my article on Nothing But Sports, I have Phoenix winning in 6. But my goal for this series is to just see Brook Lopez get posterized, like from Devin Booker, from Payne, from Jay Crowder. I want to see Chris Paul dunk on him. Give us a key that most people may not notice for this Phoenix team. Is it Payne coming off the bench? Is it Jay Crowder maybe scoring 13 to 15 a night? What is the key other than the obvious?
I think the key here would be Payne. You know, Payne is, to me, he's the best player on both benches. You know, he has to find a way to ignite that offense, the second unit for the Suns. If they can find a way to do that, then the Suns will have this game wrapped up pretty easy for game 1 at least. But for the Bucks, I would say the X factor for them would be Jrue Holiday. Now, I know you mentioned about Jrue Holiday being put on Devin Booker. And I say, well, that plan's a little tricky only because if you stick your best defender, in my opinion, on the best opposing player on the team, best offensively scoring player, then he's exerting so much on defense, so much on offense, for that matter, at least the past 2 games he has been. So will he be fatigued throughout the first series? I mean, the first game, the whole series, that could play a role as well too. So I'm looking to see how Jrue Holiday will react, how Coach Bud will be able to throw double teams at Devin Booker. But for me, him and Cameron Payne would be definitely X factors for this series.
Tom, I look at what Milwaukee does defensively, and yes, I know Atlanta was hurt, but they wore them down. Milwaukee swept the Heat. Even in Game 4, the Heat looked exhausted. You saw the Nets physically, emotionally exhausted. This Milwaukee team is physical. The Suns, for the most part, although they did have to overcome some physicality with the Clippers, but that was kind of like chippy play with Patrick Beverly, Cousins. This team wears you down. Are you nervous that the physicality is going to affect the finesse team in the Phoenix Suns?
So no, and it's mainly because Phoenix has had a couple of days of rest, right? Like Phoenix has had about, I want to say 4 or 5 days off. They're going to be well rested coming into this series, and I think that's going to play a big part. And then also there are just going to be some games, like we've seen it in almost every single series they've been in so far. Milwaukee's going to have games where they just beat themselves because they're going to do something. They're going to try and be a team that they're not. I think that the Suns will be able to withstand the physicality. And also, like I said, it's not like the Suns are just a bunch of pretty boys. Like DeAndre Ayton can bang with anybody down in the post. Jay Crowder doesn't back down from anybody. So they have guys who can get physical as well. So I like Phoenix. I like Phoenix. I don't think the physicality is definitely a part of it, but I think the fact that they're coming into the series well rested plays well into their hands.
So I said in my article that the Bucks are winning despite their coaching. I think Monty Williams should have won Coach of the Year. Okay.
Mhm.
How much impact can a coach, and I'll be honest with you, my first year coaching college basketball, I got hired in October. We were 12-12. It's the only time I was ever 500 because as good of a coach we didn't have the players. We went in and got, so if a team has so much talent, how much of a difference can Monty Williams make in this series?
Well, one thing that Monty has done with his coaching experience is he's always taken it past just basketball. And I think a lot of times, a lot of coaches kind of get lost in game planning and worrying about opponents to where they kind of neglect, the interpersonal connection that comes with being a coach. And Monty, as you can see, when he embraced CP3 after winning the conference finals with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, he's almost like a father figure to these guys. And that transcends past just coaching. So when you have that type of connection with your players, there's a level of trust that's, you literally can't put a value on that. And that in turn makes your game plan that much more effective. They get extra efforts. They make extra efforts off the court to make sure that they're ready and as prepared as possible for each game. And we're seeing, the fruits of Monty's labor after the 8-0 bubble run to adding Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. We're seeing the fruits of that labor now.
100%. Joe, is he as bad as we think, or am I overreacting here?
Oh, I think he's as bad as we think. I think that Monty Williams is going to outcoach him left and right. I mean, if there's anybody in these NBA finals that can change the narrative we all think about them, it's Coach Bud. If you're supposed to be this master of game decisions and bump after bump after bump, you can prove us wrong. Because all I've seen is him making adjustments at the absolute last moment when there's no other choice. I mean, perfect example. How does Brook Lopez, your guy, Ronnie, have 10 dunks, dominating the post, and then the next game, we can't figure out a way to get the ball in the post. We got him shooting fadeaways. We got him shooting threes. Monty Williams wouldn't do that. So I think that once the jump ball happens, Monty Williams already won the chess match. Coach Bud really proved a lot of people wrong. I know he comes from that top of the tree, so we have high expectations, but I mean, he ain't impressing me, man.
Listen, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this right now. Coach Budenholzer, you know what he looks like? He looks like a guy who's going for his third plate on a buffet, all you can eat, and his wife is like, don't do it. So he knows he's going to get in trouble later. His beard is disheveled. His shirt is always tucked out. Like, you're a professional coach, man. Act the part. Trim the beard.
It's the collar for me. It's the
You
collar.
just love the Bucks, don't you? You just love it.
Look at the disheveled collar. I mean, come on. Come on. I mean, look at Monty Williams. Nice, buttoned down, lean, shaved head. This guy, I mean, come on. All right. So let's move on here. I said this against the Nets. I said this against the Hawks. Chris Middleton doesn't have to be the second best player or the first best player in all 7 games, but he continues to do it at least 4 games. Have we underrated Chris Middleton? Because like Paul George, he struggled for years, and now it's his coming out party. Chris Middleton, when he's on, is a badass.
Oh yes, he definitely is, and I think we haven't really underrated him in the past because in the past he hasn't shown up to big games. We know that, and that's a fact, you know. But this playoff series, of these past couple of playoff series, he has been the man on offense. Seriously, when the Bucks look to go for a go-to scorer, he's their guy to do so. I really commend Chris Middleton only because he rose up to the critics. He rose up to the pressure that he was building up for his whole entire career in the playoffs. And this year has been the notable year that I've seen him come out and play out and do his best job. Rebound, I'm talking about an all-around job, rebounding, assisting, getting other teammates involved, and scoring on top of that too. Chris Middleton, for me, that's why I think that the Bucks still have a good chance to win the series even without Giannis, only because he's playing at a high level for the Bucks. So
yeah, I mean, listen, he had games where he had 10 assists. He had game where he had 15 rebounds. My question to you, Tyrese, can the Bucks win with Chris Middleton being the MVP? Or if he's the MVP, you're going to lose 4 games. Can they win with him being the MVP?
I mean, yeah, Chris Middleton does what he has to do. His only problem is he just can't stay consistent. You know, one night he'll have 35, next night he'll have like 20 and shooting like 4 for 25. And it's like, you know, they can win, but the only thing is how the team will rally around Chris Middleton. The team is so used to having Giannis and, you know, Giannis controlling majority of the ball on certain possessions. But I feel when Chris Middleton is on, everybody else kind of opens up. Everybody else looks for the open shot. Everybody else cuts harder, I feel. You know, and with Giannis, everybody just moves out the way. Chris Middleton kind of facilitates the offense through his scoring in a sense. You know, he could get a bucket, he passes out of his shot sometimes. But I feel I don't know if they can win unless the team rallies around Chris Middleton, which they usually do. So I feel that they can win if Chris Middleton is the MVP, but the surrounding cast is going to have to show up if that's the case.
All right. I will say this, though. Another thing that really bothered me about the Milwaukee coaching staff is I was screaming for Bobby Portis to play in the Nets series. He didn't play at all. Now we're seeing Bobby Portis start. I know it's because Giannis was hurt, but he's scoring 12. He's grabbing 6 rebounds. He's physical. Mm-hmm. Okay, real quick, we got about like 5-6 minutes left. Joe, if Giannis is healthy, who averages more in this series, Booker or Giannis?
I say Devin Booker.
Giannis is averaging 28 a game. I mean, he scores.
I'm sticking with Book. Shoot or shoot, man.
Okay. All right. Who averages more, Tom?
I'll say who averages just more points. Yeah, I'll go Giannis. I think Giannis is more of the focal point of the offense, whereas Chris Paul kind of runs the offense and will get everybody involved. So I think they'll be close, but I think Giannis will probably end up averaging close to 30 this series, and Devin Booker will be around 27.
Who averages more?
Yeah.
Definitely Giannis. Yeah. They don't have an answer for Giannis. With Booker, I mean, you don't really have an answer for him either, but you can stick a guy like Jrue Holiday on him to slow him down a little bit. I think that they have nobody outside of probably Ayton. I'm not really sure if that's a good matchup for him to Giannis for that matter. So Giannis, to me, he's going to average more this series.
I remember when Dirk Nowitzki and they beat the Miami Heat, and people made such a huge deal of, you know, the number one option being a foreign-born player. Obviously, Hakeem Olajuwon did that. But what would it mean, like, for Giannis to start where he has started, gain 50 pounds? People talk about they want Chris Paul to win. But when I look at Giannis, I see someone who has flaws, like all of us, but he just keeps working and working. It's hard not to root for him, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, we can just go back to the second round and how people were talking about Giannis' ascension and comparing it to the terrible play of Ben Simmons. In a vacuum, are they not the same player? But the fact that Giannis attempts shots that Ben Simmons won't even think to, that makes like a big difference between the two. So yes, to do it the way he's done, even with the flaws that he still has, unbelievable, absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
More sentimental value now. We know that Chris Paul, people are rooting for him. Everyone's talking about, let Chris Paul get it. He got injured. He had tough breaks. He should have went to the Lakers back in the day. They nixed the trade. What would it mean for Chris Paul to win? Does he cement his legacy? I know a lot of guys on this panel don't think it, but to me, he's a top 5 point guard. Win or lose.
Oh no. Yes, very much so. Chris Paul has waited years to get to this point. He's gone through all the trials and obstacles and everything you can imagine for an NBA player at this point in his career. He's later on in his career, so it means a lot more, especially knowing that the time is winding down, that he could finally reach that impossible, step, that impossible level in the game. He's finally, this is his chance. I feel that Chris Paul over the years has gone through a lot. He's seen a lot. He's played with a lot of teammates. He's played with a lot of coaches. He's been around the league, more times than not, So I feel that it would mean a lot, and I feel his legacy will be cemented regardless of what happens in this finals. We are rooting for Chris Paul to get his first ring, but people are also rooting for Giannis, like you said before. So the story, this is going to be a really good finals for either fan, I guess. If you're a fan of the game,
I like it because it's two small market teams. I like it because Milwaukee hasn't been there since 1971. Phoenix hasn't been there since 1993. And I also like it too, believe it or not, people don't notice Monty Williams' wife died a few years ago. And he walked away from the game because he was devastated. He was really, obviously your wife dies. And Monty Williams seems to me just like you said, like a father figure, like more than basketball. When Greg Popovich came into the league, he was known as a hard ass, as a bastard, didn't treat players well. He evolved. People love Greg Popovich now all across the league. So if Monty Williams wins, I think we're seeing a star on the rise. So last question, then we'll get to predictions. If the Bucks don't win, does Mike Budenholzer come back as the head coach?
No, you can go to the next person, Monty. Absolutely not. You might have to. No, absolutely. Come on now.
Dom, how do you fire a guy that gets to the NBA championship? That's
Easily.
not named David Blatt.
Well, I was gonna say the Cavs did it with David Blatt, but should he be fired? Yes. Will he be? Probably not.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be way too hard. This team, say what you want, they've fallen short, but you can almost always guarantee they're going to be at least one of the top 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference. They're going to make it to at the least the second round of the playoffs. And now they're in the finals, have a chance to win it, especially if they win. He's going to be back.
If they win, no brainer. But do you fire him if he loses?
I definitely fire him. And here's why. I do think that it's a no-brainer for me. It really is. You have to have ambition as a team. And although you did good this season, you got to the NBA Finals, you have to look at the kind of plays that he's been calling, in my opinion, the adjustments that he hasn't been making over the course of the entire playoffs, the postseason as well. I don't like the fact that he's too slow with his calls. He's not a reactionary guy. Ty Lue was a reactionary guy. We saw that. Monty Williams is a great coach. Damian Miller is a great coach. They can't consider him as a good coach, even though they've made it to the finals.
Do you fire him? If it's hard to fire a guy who gets to the finals and has won as many games as he has?
I personally would fire him because of all the reasons that everyone stated. He's slow to adjust, puts them in unnecessary pinches. But will he be fired? No, because going back to at the conclusion of last season, if Giannis wanted him gone, he would have been gone. But one of the main reasons Giannis came back is the level of comfortability that he does have with him coming after Jason Kidd. So will he be fired? No.
All right, Teresa, I'm going to start with you. I had Milwaukee winning every series, getting to the NBA Finals. I had Phoenix winning every series, getting to other than the Lakers. I thought the Lakers would beat them, so I was way off on the Phoenix Suns. But I, unlike the Milwaukee coaching staff, I evolved, I adjusted, and I did quickly. I have Phoenix winning in 6 games. I think they're too well coached, but I can see Milwaukee winning. This is not going to be an easy series, especially if Giannis is healthy. But I won't be able to sleep for a month if Brook Lopez wins a title. He is the softest guy I've ever seen in my life. He's made out of ice cream. I've seen Trae Young, who's 5'11", 150, rip a rebound out of his hand. So who wins this series? who's the MVP and why? Tyrese, we'll start with you and tell us how we can follow you.
Phoenix pulls it out in 7. Not only just
7?
because of the fact that Phoenix pulls it out in 7. Not only because of the fact that they're well coached. I just feel that overall, I feel even the team, like just the team and the way that it's built around. I don't think Milwaukee will be able to stop the well-oiled machine that Phoenix is at going. They're playing a team that is full of confidence and that is hungry right now, and all of that means the world when you're going into a game as big as this or a series as big as this. So I feel that Phoenix pulls it out in 7, man. That's my honest take right there.
All right, how can we follow you on social media?
Follow me at Sportsopedia. You see it right there at the bottom. Daily sports posts, daily basketball posts. I post stats, all of that. Follow the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew, the full Monty Sports Show, and everybody here. This wonderful cast, and we love sports. We love talking about this. This is what we do every day, man. This is ball. Ball is life. As everybody would say.
And seriously, guys, I say this via text. I always say great job, and you're probably like a scenario, but I want to thank all of you because I try to get everyone as much time as possible. You're all patient. When I call you, you're right on point. So I want to thank all you guys because it's not easy to have 6 guys on the show or 5 guys and everyone get their point across. So thank you all for being patient. And Tyrese, we will see you next week. Thanks so much for coming on. All right. So are you shocked at how tough Phoenix is despite them being so young? Because these guys don't get intimidated over anyone.
No, I'm not shocked in the slightest. And it's, I'm rather new to the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew, but I've been supporting Chris Paul my whole life. And the fact that he went to the Suns, I saw the alignment. I saw, the pearly gates at the end of the finish line for them. And I've seen everything that I thought come to fruition over time. And so I'm not surprised. His leadership in combination with Monty Williams from that connection that they had back in New Orleans in 2011. Picked up where it left off, and it just kept incrementally going up and up.
But my point is, when you see teams, right? Golden State Warriors, they had to lose to the Clippers. They lost. The Miami Heat, even with LeBron, lost to Dallas. Then they lose to Golden State Warriors. This team has such confidence, and they've never won. They've never been through their lumps. So how is it Monty Williams? Is it Chris Paul? Is it Devin Booker? How can a young team have so much confidence?
Well, you hit it right on the head with the first 2, but also so Chris Paul, of course, Monty Williams, of course, but Jay Crowder as well. Jay Crowder is the only player in this NBA Finals this season that's actually made it to that stage before. So you add those three entities to a budding team, and you get what you have now, which is
Jay Crowder has had tremendous success in everywhere except when he played with LeBron for some reason. He was terrible. All right, who wins and why, and how can we follow you?
I have the Phoenix Suns in 5.
Whoa!
I have Chris Paul as my Finals MVP based off of the slow adjustments that Mike Budenholzer does. They're going to play drop coverage. He's going to pick them apart in playmaking, and he's going to hit as many mid-range pull-ups as he wants to. And that'll end up being more than enough in combination with Devin Booker doing the same for the Suns to win the series in 5.
And we follow you right there?
Yes, sir. You can follow me on social media platforms, Instagram and Twitter, at StayTrueS.3. I talk basketball all day, every day, and talk a little music as well. So that's where you can find me.
All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for hopping on. Always appreciate your insight, and congrats. If you're a Chris Paul fan, this has got to be a great time for you. He's finally getting the due he deserves. All right, Dom, Giannis, if he plays, this is not going to be an easy win for Phoenix. He said 5, said 7. I have them in 6. 5 is very bold. This Milwaukee team, despite their coaching, despite Giannis not hitting free throws, they're a tough out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. And with all that being said, I'm still taking Phoenix. I like Phoenix in 6, just like you. Giannis and Milwaukee, they'll win 2 games this series because of Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is going to give you games where he's going to give you at least 2 games where he's going to give you a 30-piece, and it's going to be the difference in those 2 games. But I don't know if he has 3 or 4 of those type of games in him. Because Giannis, we obviously know Giannis is going to do what he does. It's really the Bucks' chances of winning a championship this year are really going to lie on what Chris Middleton does. So if he can have 3, maybe 4 of those games where he puts up 30 points, then they'll win. But I don't see that happening. I like the Phoenix Suns in 6. I like Chris Paul to go ahead, get him his first ring, get him a Finals MVP as well, and solidify himself as one of the top 5 point guards of all time. Yeah, I like Phoenix. And
Dom, final question. Has
Yes.
Drew Holiday been a disappointment? Did you think he would be better this year coming from New Orleans where he put up some great numbers?
So I thought he'd be a little bit better over bigger stretches. Like I thought it would be more consistent, but to his credit, Drew Holiday has shown up in some of the biggest moments for the Bucks this year.
Late in the quarter, yes.
Specifically in the playoffs, specifically in like the fourth quarter. He's had some truly tremendous moments helping them close out games, helping them get back into games. So I think you would like to see that be a bit more consistent throughout the whole season. But if he's showing up when it matters, I think he's as good as advertised.
All right, Dom, training camp right around the corner. When is your show going to first air?
So we're going to be bringing back No Huddle Necessary back in August. So about a month, month and a half, cannot wait to start that up again. Football is my first love. Love basketball as well. Love working with all of you guys, by the way. Nuts and Bolts Sports. We truly are a family here. I enjoy working with all of you, just talking about all of the things that we love. So yes, No Huddle Necessary will be back in August. Make sure you guys keep on checking out the Nuts and Bolts Sports page on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. Subscribe, like, make sure you subscribe to this show. Make sure that you like this episode. Monty, great show here. I love always being on here. Even though it took me forever to finally get on the show, I'm super happy that like now I'm on here consistently.
Well, but Tom, every time I asked you to come on, you said I'm working. I can't do it.
Well, listen, I'm happy the stars finally aligned and we got us here. Guys, you can follow me. Yeah, I got it right on the first time this time. You can follow me here at Dom the Sports Guy on Twitter. Like I said, articles pumping out, whether it's football, basketball, any of that stuff. But again, thanks for having me on. And
Dom, I'll close out with this. I'm a big believer. It doesn't matter where you start, it's how you finish. So you may not have been here at the beginning, but you're here when we're rolling. So thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Great job as always. Okay, Edwin, you were the MVP the first half of the show. Then I didn't like some of the things you said. So who wins and why? I know you're going with Phoenix. You loved Utah. You love Phoenix. One of them's right. Is it going to be a long series?
Ooh, I'm actually not going to go with Phoenix here. I'm going to be the lone wolf and take the Bucks in 6. Yes. Milwaukee, I do believe in Drew Holiday. I do believe in Chris Middleton performing at a high level once again. And I think game 1 is as crucial as it can be at this point. If the Milwaukee Bucks can find a way to steal game 1, with Giannis coming back into the fold later in the series, I think they have a good shout at winning. Giannis will be my MVP for the finals because he is also hungry, as many people have stated as well too. So we're going to talk about Chris Paul being hungry. Giannis is hungry as well too. Taking him a while to get to this stage, and now he's finally here. I think he's not going to go down without a fight. So the Milwaukee Bucks in 6, I like them.
You know, one of the things if they were healthy, I probably would have leaned with Milwaukee in 7. But then you take a 7-game series and you're like, okay, coaching matchup here. Who's going to make the matchups? You cannot take what's the Brooklyn coaching staff. They had no experience, right?
No.
Atlanta, 6 games, although I love what their coaching staff did, but they were injured. So you're not concerned with Milwaukee's coaching and Giannis's injury?
I am. I definitely am. This will be the toughest coaching test that they will face throughout the whole entire playoffs. Monty Williams is the best coach out of all those that you just mentioned. But I am also confident in the fact that, listen, we just mentioned Drew Holiday and how well he's been performing without Giannis. Other players stepping up as well too. Brook Lopez, even though you're not really a fan of him. Bobby Portis. These guys are producing at high levels and high numbers. And once you incorporate all of that with Giannis coming back into the fold, and I think that the Phoenix Suns have no answer for Giannis as it is. So once he comes back, he'll have his way in the paint wherever it may be. That's why I'm leaning towards the Bucks winning this series.
Listen, I could see it happening. I don't think it's going to be easy. I'm just not sure at how healthy Giannis is going to be, because you got to remember some guys. He's a pretty good defender. He's a pretty good rebounder. He's a pretty good shot blocker. If he's 70%, that's going to affect all of them. It's not like he's just a shooter. He does a lot of other things. All right, how can we follow you? How can we support you?
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at TheRealEddie03. Just basically as same as what these guys said, these lovely gentlemen over here. We love the NBA's crew. This is a family. I love it over here. I love the Full Monty Sports Show. This is a great show. So continue to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts channel. Give us more and more feedback on how we can get better as well too. More articles coming out this week and next week as well too. So listen, guys, thank you so much for having me once again.
Edwin, after that closing, you won again. So it's a lot like life. You go up, you go down, but you're closing the show like the champion you are. So I appreciate that, and we'll see you next week. I got to tell you, Joe, it's hard to get everyone involved, but I'm like LeBron. I'm dishing. Everyone gets enough airtime, right?
You did a great job. And you know me, I'm always glued in. They just announced Giannis is a go.
Wow.
So,
Joe,
not 100%, but he's a go.
Can we make the argument they should sit him tonight and give him?
I would. Obviously, we're not there to see what that pregame workout looked like. They got to understand that if they make this, we saw.
Up, Joe, you went on mute there for a second. There you go.
Dancing in the hallway. We were super excited to have KD back, and then all of a sudden we had the unfortunate ruptured Achilles. We don't want to see a repeat of that. And sometimes you got to save the athlete from themselves. So if I was Milwaukee, based on what you've done without him and the wins you're able to get, I would have sat him for this game. But we're sitting in our living rooms and our offices, Monty. They're in the NBA Finals, so I guess we'll see.
Listen, you can't argue with that. Final question, Joe. Monty Williams and Chris Paul, if they do this, let's say they win the title, right? Chris Paul is obviously on the back nine of his career. I don't know what they're going to re-sign him to. Can we make the argument? Can we say, look, Chris Paul, we're going to give Payne more minutes next year, and Paul really becomes, instead of playing 32 minutes, he plays 28. A lot of like what Greg Popovich did with Tony Parker in his last final years when they did win a title. Because I got to be honest with you, Chris Paul is healthy for the first time. He even said when he got COVID, sitting out helped him. So I don't want my point guard, especially Chris Paul, who does it all, to play 30 minutes a game for 78 games, 80 games during the regular season. Can they make the argument that if they win, he's going to take a lesser role next year?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. It comes down to Chris Paul. Can you accept that? Or are you going to be, as much as I love him, are you going to be a Carmelo Anthony that kind of wanted to bump heads on that and refuse to be a bench player? Or we kind of remember the greatness about Allen Iverson. We don't talk a lot about the end of Allen Iverson. The Memphis Times, the Detroit Pistons, the Denver Nuggets. If he can accept that, then yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good thing going. They have great chemistry between each other.
All right, who wins, Joe?
Oh, man. I said on Twitter earlier today, Suns in 6. Edwin made a great argument. I think I flip-flopped 5 times while you were talking to him. Man.
Joe, I'm putting pictures up to influence you. And here's the final one to influence you, Joe.
You know what? I'm changing my mind again. I'm going to say Milwaukee in 7 games.
Wow. Yeah, listen, I hope we get 7 games. The only reason I picked the Suns in 6, because if it goes 7, I think that Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Monty Williams will have something, will outcoach them. And for 1 game, they'd be better. But if Giannis is healthy, Joe, he's 30, 12, and 6 every game. Forget about what he does in the fourth quarter of the free throw line. He's unstoppable. For a guy who has limited jump shot ability as he does, he's about as unstoppable as a person can be inside 15 feet.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he looks like tonight. I'm excited to see. I just hope it's not one of the situations where the athletes put so much pressure on the coaching staff and medical staff that they said okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him hurt himself any worse than he already is. That's the biggest.
All right, Joe. How can we follow you? How can we tell people about your show? What's going on with that?
Oh, man, you can follow us at Nuts and Bolts SP. That's on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter. I don't do anything on there, but we have a TikTok account. If you're into TikTok, we're on there as well. Just look up Nuts and Bolts Sports SP. As far as my show, Just Three with Joe, you can find that on YouTube. You can also find with a brand new adventure I just started a couple weeks ago. It's called the 19 Media Group, and it's a group of great podcast hosts, talented individuals. You can find Just Three with Joe on their network as well, and new episodes drop weekly.
Okay, Joe, final thing. My Mets kind of laid the smackdown on your Yankees this weekend. There's only one team in New York right now. What the hell's going on with the Yankees?
We need to end the show right now, Monty. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the time.
Joe, seriously, Aaron Boone's got to be fired. They got to fire him. They got to fire him.
I will say this much: it's nice to see little brother get some shine. We'll see what happens come October. I still got faith. We got it. We'll have a new manager by then. We'll make some kind of trade. I'm far from giving up on the Yankees.
But you agree, by the All-Star break, they're 9 games behind Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to make a move. It's him.
All right, Joe. And I love seeing my Mets take 2 out of 3. They could have swept, but they didn't. But the Mets are in first place, so life is good right now. All right, Joe.
Mom's a machine, man. What do you want me to say?
We'll see you next week. Great job. Always love having Joe. Always love having the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew on. We're going to be doing halftime shows for the next game. We're going to do halftime shows for the entire NBA Finals. Just giving you our recap, letting you know what we feel, what's happening. Again, I have Phoenix in 6. Don't know if that's going to be the case. I wasn't really confident in that pick, especially with Giannis not us not knowing his whether he's going to be 100%, 70%. But I want to thank all of you. Tune in Sunday to the Full Monty Sports Show, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Talk about a wide world of sports. Going to start doing more NFL stuff. Going to hopefully change up the background here. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers stays or goes. And I want to thank everyone for complimenting me on my beautiful lime green shirt. And the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss from No Country for Old Men, I shall return. Carla Jean.